go out and kill unless it's war. But I mean, they take it to an extreme. Like some Sharia laws, they like take it to an extreme. So I don't really
Hmm.
like support it.
Right. Oh, yeah, I dig it. That's one thing that I really appreciate about many Muslims in the West, in that they don't support the Muslim extremists who are going around, persecuting others. And I think there was a part where it said to, what is it, to kill the unbelievers, right? So how would you, a non-Muslim extremist, understand that and enlighten me?
A non-Muslim extremist or like a
Yes,
Muslim extremist. Um,
non-Muslim extremist. You're a non-Muslim extremist, right?
no, yeah, I don't support it.
Yeah.
Um, so in the Quran, when it says to kill unbelievers, the context usually behind that, there's some parts that Christians or like anyone quotes. It talks about either like when they break a treaty or like around times of war.
Hmm.
So I mean, I don't think there's really going on like besides the Palestinian Israel conflict. I don't really think there's like wars going around. So I don't really see a reason to like go out and like kill disbelievers. So that's like a reason why like I don't really support like what the extremists do.
Hmm. Yeah. Isn't that one of the verses they try to bring up to support their cause, if I'm not
Yeah, I
mistaken?
think that is, but they obviously take it out of context. There's many Muslim YouTubers who also address like
Hmm.
people like ISIS, like they're not really Muslim. They take the verses out of context. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at least that's one point I really appreciate, which is the distinctions that come with it. Like there will be, for example, Christians who will misquote the Bible for their evil agendas as well. So they could be some kind of extremists, quote unquote. But then the real Christians will come out and say, no, that's not how you're supposed to understand the scriptures, and it's not in accordance with the tradition and the teaching of the church, for example.
Mhm.
All right. So let's get into the debate. How old are you, by the way? I'm 22. You sound young.
Yeah, I'm like 14.
You're 14? Were you born into Islam, if you don't mind me asking? Or did
Yeah,
you
I
convert?
was.
Okay.
No, I was born, and I'm assuming you were probably born into a Catholic family.
Yeah, yeah, I was born into it. But I know some people who converted to Catholicism. And for me personally, I get a lot of joy from just, those converts. Because it takes, I know it's very hard. Like, one has to really, really undermine one's foundations and one's beliefs that one grew up in to convert. And so a lot of the converts to Catholicism, I just like 100% appreciate.
Yeah, yeah, I get the happiness. Like it takes a lot. Like knowing like the religion you used to be in, like the converting, like it's like probably the most difficult choice like you'd make in your life. So like I get the
Hmm.
happiness.
Yeah, yeah. And you probably get the same when people convert to Islam, right? So I have a
Right.
friend who was Baptist, so a kind of Protestant Christian, and then he converted to
Mhm.
Catholicism, and then now he's Muslim. So I mean that does happen out there, for example.
Yeah, I mean I've like never really converted anyone because like I don't really do that. I don't have that much time. I've never really seen any. Well, I might have seen like one or two people get converted, but yeah, I mean, kind of makes me happy. But like, yeah,
Hmm.
it's a very common thing to convert, and it's a very difficult choice. So I get the happiness.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, bro. That's super good. Super good. What would you say like in terms of your certainty with Islam, like how certain are you that it's true, and like if there were any other religions out there that you find yourself more compelled to, like by percentage, not like you're going to convert, but by percentage, which one
Okay.
do you think you're closer to?
Well, so Islam, I'm like 98% sure it's true. Like the other 2%, like it's just some questions that I have that like kind of shake my belief. So
Hmm.
I'm doing some research on that. And like if like another religion I'd convert to, a close second would probably be I don't really know because like none of them are really like kind of similar to Islam. So like
Hmm.
it's very shaky. But Christianity is probably like a close second, even though like I probably wouldn't convert. But Christianity has like some good aspects to it, maybe some bad, but like I wouldn't. I don't really think about converting since I'm like a pretty strict Muslim. So,
Hmm.
but yeah. So if I were to base Islam on how I think it would be true, probably 98 to 100%, maybe like a percent or two off from questions I have. So
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I appreciate that point. Like I'll probably say that's where I am too, if not 100%. But if there were rooms for doubt, like certain questions that are more philosophical, say, and certain questions
mhm.
that I still haven't really like fully formulated in my mind, but I know there are answers out there. Like yeah, I would leave room for that openness as well. And so, like me personally, I would. Me personally.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So, um, the topic today is on the Quranic contradictions or so-called contradictions. So,
Yeah,
if you could go ahead and please enlighten me with your answers concerning how I see, the problems in the Quran itself. So, let me try to pull my notes right
yeah.
here.
I'll try my best.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. It doesn't mean that you're gonna have all the answers, and it doesn't mean that I have all the answers, right? So like, you
Yeah,
don't have to have way too much pressure. Plus, you're only 14, and I'm only 22, so we're like young people. We're still learning.
yeah.
So let's see.
Are you gonna live stream this? Cause like
No, it's not live
I'm
stream.
like fine with it. If you, all right.
It's
I
not
mean, I'm
live stream.
fine. With,
It's not live stream though. No.
oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. So let's see. Mm, do you think that Jesus can create from clay, and who gets to create from clay? So, for example, let me pull up this one part where it shows that it's Allah Himself who does miracles. And let me ask you, would you say that Muhammad himself can perform miracles and did perform miracles?
So in the Quran, whenever like a prophet, or a messenger performs miracles, they never do it out of their own power, and it's Allah who does it through the prophet to show that the prophet is like really a prophet. So like whenever like Moses split the sea, it wasn't really Moses who did it; it was God showing His power through Moses. So yeah, I'd say like prophets can do miracles, but it's
Hmm.
not like through their own will. It's just like what God does through the prophet.
Hmm. Yeah. And just to be clear, I do think that Jesus was at least a prophet. So he was a prophet, as in, the messenger for God the Father in
Yeah.
the Christian belief. And so there's no problem with what you said. Like Jesus said that he follows the will of the Father. And so whatever the Father commands, Jesus does. It's very simple, right? That's something that
Hmm.
us Christians find in the book of John. So far with what you said, there's no problem. And just to substantiate what you were saying, right? So in Surah 6, 109, it says, this is from Asad. Now they swear by God with their most solemn oaths that if a miracle were shown to them, they would indeed believe in this divine writ. That's in brackets. Say, miracles are in the power of God alone, etc. So only God is the one who performs the miracles. And that is true to some extent. Like, if God did not exist, no miracles would come about. So, would you say specifically, so the understanding here is miracles show that one is a true prophet. Now, did Muhammad perform any miracles?
Pretty sure there's like a miracle where he like split the moon, but I don't really know if there's any hadith on that. But I've heard it from like other scholars, so I think like that's one miracle. I think there might be more, but I just don't know any off the top of my head.
Hmm. Okay. So,
But
so
yeah, I think one like splitting the moon. That's like I think one of them.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. So he split the moon. Okay. Um, Now, when it comes to the creating from clay, this is something that I did on one of my TikTok videos. You might have seen it. Well, creating from clay, and in the Arabic, it would only be God who creates from clay. So let me read 349. Okay, Surah 349 from
Hmm.
Palmer. So I'm getting the translation from Palmer. And he shall be a prophet to the people of Israel, saying that I have come to you with a sign from God, namely that I will create for you out of clay. So in the Arabic, I'm gonna butcher this, but ani akhluku lakumina altini. as though it were the form of a bird, and I will blow thereon, and it shall become a bird by God's permission. And I will heal the blind from birth and lepers, and I will bring the dead to life by God's permission, etc. So Jesus here, number one,
Excuse me. Excuse me. What verse did you say, and what surah?
this is Surah 349.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Or continue.
Yeah, so that's Surah 349. So number one, Jesus will create out of clay, and I said the Arabic. And then number two, Jesus will raise the dead by God's permission. Now, what's interesting is it's only Allah Himself who creates from clay. So Surah 6, verse 2, Surah 6 is from Yusuf Ali says, He it is who created you from clay, and He decreed a term. There's another term fixed with Him, yet you doubt, etc. Okay, so it shows here that it is He, aka Allah who created you from clay. And so here's a scholar, Samir Khalil Samir. He says, with the verb kalaka is found 180 times in the Quran, and it is always translated in various languages to create. So this in reference to Jesus' creation out of clay. With the exception of Quran 2017, it always designates the creative action of God. In 177 cases, the subject of the verb is God, while in the other two cases, it is Christ, etc. He says, both reflect thus the two verbs used in the verse both reflect the divine creative action and not the human action of a potter. So when it says that Jesus creates out of clay, it is a divine creative action that, once again, according to Surah 6 2, it is Allah Himself who creates from clay. So would you say this means that Jesus has this act of creating out of clay that is a divine act, and so Jesus would be divine and is God?
Well, I have I think a different translation by Dr. Mustafa Khattab. In the thing I'm reading from the Quran, it says to when he creates the bird from clay to breathe into it, and it will become and then quote real bird, and then by Allah's will. So I mean, it kind of depends on what translation you follow, but I'm pretty sure like the most common translations decipher it by Allah's will. You can also see it multiple times in the Quran, like uh for example Moses when he splits the sea or throws a staff. It's usually through Allah's will and not through the own prophets, because the prophets aren't strong enough or have their own power. And you can see in uh Surah Imran
I'll
verse
grant you. I'll
49.
grant you. By the way, IDK, I'll grant you that it's through Allah's will. It's through God's will. I understand it as the
Mhm.
Father's will. I even grant you that. But my question is like, does that mean then that Jesus had just created out of clay, which is a divine act, and so He would be divine? That's what I'm asking.
I mean, like, what would you define like by divine? Like what
As
would
in,
you define like divine?
yeah. Thanks for the question. I would say that by divine, I would mean that it is of the godly nature. And so when the Quran said that it is Allah Himself who creates from clay, and yet it says that Jesus creates from clay, Jesus then would be
Mhm.
creating with the divine act. And so that's basically what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, well, I don't think it would make Jesus divine, since like Jesus isn't doing through his power. Allah is divine. That's because he has the power to do these and perform like the miracles. But since Jesus can't do it through his own power, I wouldn't necessarily like list him as like divine.
Okay, so you would say that one who does the miracle independent of another makes one divine, but
Mhm.
one who does a miracle through another person by another person's will or permission, that would show that that person is not divine, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so yeah, I understand your perspective. What do you make of the fact that the verb kalaka is found 180 times in the Quran and it is always translated to create? And 177 cases, it is talking about Allah, while the other two cases, Surah 349 and Surah 5 110, it is about Christ. So this verb for to create is number one, primarily Allah, but number two, it's about Christ. What do you make about that fact? Does that show that Jesus has this divine creative act as well?
Not really. We can see many times that Jesus like Allah talks about Isa or Jesus in the Quran. It doesn't really list him as a divine being. It just lists him as a prophet of Allah, and I might find a verse quoting that. But even though like when the word create comes up and it doesn't like list it with Allah, we can definitely infer that it is Allah because it lists in the Quran multiple times that people like Jesus, Moses, they're all just prophets of God and they can do nothing out of their own will. So I guess we can make the we can infer that when the word create comes up and Allah's name isn't mentioned, we can infer that Allah is the one who is creating or at least performing the miracle.
Yeah. And what source would you point to show that whenever Jesus is said to say have done this creation, that we can infer that it's Allah Himself who is doing it through Jesus?
Give me a second. I'll see if I can find it since I don't have it up right now. So like give me a minute.
Hmm.
Okay, I think in Surah 19 um verse 30, it says, Jesus declared, I am truly a servant of Allah. He has destined me to be given the scripture and to be a prophet. He has made me a blessing wherever I go and bid me to establish prayer and give alms tax as long as I live. And if you continue a few verses, and to be kind to my mother. Um, yeah, so and also,
So,
Surah 19, verse
hmm
33, it says, Peace be upon me the day I was born, the day I die, and the day I will be raised back to life. So from this, we can infer or we can understand that first of all, he's just a prophet, like he says. Secondly, in verse 33, when he says the day I was born, obviously talking about the virgin birth. The
hmm
day I die, which is when he comes back to kill the Antichrist, he shall die too. That is his main purpose
hmm
of being the Messiah, to kill
yeah,
the Antichrist and to die. And then when he will be raised back to life during the day of judgment. So we can infer that he's also a prophet based on how he
right.
is born
Yeah,
and then he also like dies.
yeah. Once again, I agree that he's a prophet at least. What my question was about is how can we infer that God is the one who creates from clay when the Quran clearly says it is Jesus who creates from clay?
All right, I'm gonna need another minute to find a verse like that. So
Or actually, we can move on.
I mean, yeah, we can move on.
Mhm.
As we
Yeah,
go through, I'll try to find a verse.
thanks, bro. I appreciate it. Do you think that Allah can have a son? And if not, could you give me an explanation?
Repeat that again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, do you think that Allah could have a son? And if not, could you give an
Uh,
explanation, a reason? Yeah.
I don't think he can have a son because says in the Quran around I think the end of the Quran somewhere it says Allah isn't begotten and cannot beget, so he isn't born and he cannot produce children.
hmm Would you say that Allah cannot have a son because he has no spouse?
No, I'd say Allah cannot have a son because he doesn't need to have a son.
hmm
He doesn't have use for a son. I don't really know why he would have a son, so that's why I'd say he doesn't really need a son.
hmm Yeah. So logically, at least logically speaking, I don't think it's necessary for God to be three persons instead of one. At least right now, I'm not convinced of any arguments of such. So in that way, I'm okay with. It's just obviously, as you can probably guess by now, I was trying to address one of the typical Muslim objections that Allah cannot have a
Mhm.
son because Allah does not have a wife, which I think doesn't really follow because we see that Mary herself did not have, Joseph going into her, and so and yet Allah still said in Surah 6:21, "It is easy for me," basically to give Mary Jesus, even though Mary remains the virgin throughout.
Yeah, he could do that through his power. He doesn't really need to have a spouse. Pretty sure somewhere in the Quran again, it'll take me like a minute to find the verse, but I don't think I can do it right now. It
Hmm.
says Allah Jesus is I think like a spirit of Allah, or no, a spirit from Allah, because Allah, when He creates, He says be, and it is.
Hmm.
So really, I guess Mary doesn't need to have a spouse because Allah's power, He can create Jesus without Mary needing a spouse. So
Yeah. So let's see. Now on another topic, do you think that Muhammad is the servant of an angel, or is a servant of Jesus, or is he only the servant of Allah, like without any other persons?
um, I think he's like the servant of Allah.
Only? Would you say only
Yeah,
and
only.
without
Yeah,
anybody else?
probably only.
Okay.
Yeah, probably without anybody else.
Okay. So with Surah 6 103, it writes, "The eyes attain him," meaning Allah, not, but he attains the eyes. He is the all subtle, the all aware. So basically, no one can see Allah. That's basically what it's saying. Um, let's see. So, but given that, we see in Surah 53, 1 through 18. So I'm getting the translation from Autoberry, okay? By the star when it plunges, your comrade is not astray, etc., etc. Taught him, so this is not by a revelation revealed, taught him by one terrible in power, very strong. He stood poised, being on the higher horizon. Then he drew near and suspended hung 2 bows' length away or near, then revealed to his servant that he revealed. His heart lies not of what he saw. What will you dispute with him what he sees? Indeed, he, and by the way, the context here is Muhammad. Indeed, he, Muhammad, saw him another time by the lot tree of the boundary nigh, which is the garden of the refuge. And
I'm gonna just need you to repeat the verse so I could
yes,
quickly go to it.
yeah, Surah 53. Here, I'll type it in for you. Surah 53, 1 through 18. So Surah 53, 1 through 18. And then Surah 81, 15 through 29. I'm going to continue reading right here. Okay. So earlier we just read that basically there's this character who is one terrible in power, and this character stood poised and then drew near to Muhammad and then revealed to Muhammad, who is called the servant. Um, and then yeah, so and then Muhammad saw this really powerful character, etc. Right? And then Surah
Hmm.
81, 15 through 21 says this from Arberi once again. This is the word of a noble messenger, having power with the Lord of the throne. So the Lord of the throne, that's God's throne.
Hmm.
Secure, obeyed, moreover trusty. Your companion is not possessed. He, meaning Muhammad, truly saw him, meaning Allah, on the clear horizon, etc., etc., the Lord of all beings. So, what Surah 53, 1 through 18, and Surah 81, 15 through 19 just showed us is that number one, there's this character who is really terrible in power. He stood poised, he drew near, he has the servant, which is Allah, or sorry, Muhammad. Muhammad is the servant of this strong character. And in Surah 81, 15 through 29, Muhammad truly saw Allah on the clear horizon. So earlier, you said that Allah can, or sorry, you said that Muhammad is only the servant of Allah, right?
Mm. All right. So yeah, the only servant of Allah.
Hmm.
Um.
So with that, and then we combine that with Surah 6, 103, the eyes attain him not. So that means one cannot see Allah, and yet we just read from Surah 53, 1 through 18, Surah 81, 15 through 29, that one does see Allah, or more specifically, Muhammad saw Allah. So this is the basic question: can one see Allah? Yes or no? Because these two seem contradictory.
In some cases, yeah, but I don't think any prophet has seen Allah.
Hmm.
So in Surah 53, uh, when it says on the horizon, it's not talking about Allah, it's talking about Gabriel. Because when you continue reading, it says he approached the prophet coming so close, he was only arm lengths away or even less. This is talking about when he was in the cave and he was revealing, I'm pretty sure, the first verses. Then it says Allah revealed to his servant what he revealed through Gabriel. So Allah is not obviously coming down and revealing through himself. He's revealing it through Gabriel. And then you
So,
just continue reading, and
just
yeah,
real
and then
quick,
it
do you think that the servant here is a servant of the angel then? Because you were saying that the angel Gabriel appeared to Muhammad, and then if so, then that would mean that Muhammad is a servant of Gabriel.
there or let me repeat it real quick. It says ayah 10, then Allah revealed to his servant, obviously meaning Muhammad, revealed
Hmm.
to his servant what he revealed through Gabriel. So
So,
Allah is
so,
revealing to the servant
mhm.
through Gabriel, not really meaning Muhammad is Gabriel's servant, but it's just basically since Allah cannot reveal, obviously come down in front of Muhammad, he reveals it through Gabriel. So it's
Mhm.
not really meaning that Muhammad's Gabriel's servant. It just means that Gabriel is a messenger for Muhammad, for the
Actually,
servant.
yeah, in the Arabic, it does not say that Allah revealed through Gabriel. It doesn't say that in the Arabic, actually. It says, in the Arabic, it actually says here, I'll quote it to you right here. Then, here, I'll write it into the chat. So, then revealed to his servant that he revealed. So, the servant that he revealed, that angel Gabriel revealed to, was Muhammad. So, that's what the Arabic actually says. Which translation were you said you were using?
Um, I think Dr. Mustafa Khattab.
Yeah, so it doesn't say that in the Arabic. In this is the Arberi, and Arberi is very literal. So and okay, I see it right here. So through Gabriel is actually in brackets. That means it's not in the Arabic. So I see the one of the translations it shows that it's in brackets. It shows rather then
Mm.
Allah revealed to his servant what he revealed. So this means Allah revealed this to the servant. And if so, then that means Muhammad saw Allah, no?
Well, usually when it's in brackets, it's obviously not part of the Quran, but it's there for context. Um, so when it says through Gabriel in the brackets, it talks it gives context, and also I mean I could turn my camera on and show you, but the title of like this little portion says the prophet's encounter with Gabriel, and it's not talking about Allah showing himself and revealing the book to Muhammad. It's talking about Muhammad's encounter with Gabriel. And we could see it in Ayah 9 when it says he was an arm's length away or even less, because Muhammad saw Gabriel in the cave, and we know that he saw him like face to face.
Hmm.
So we can infer that.
So you would say, for example, that Allah has no arms and no face, right? Is that what you were trying to
I don't
get at?
really know. No, I was trying to get at that he was talking to Gabriel, not Allah.
Okay.
It says it
So as
here,
you
like I mean,
so as
continue.
you
You
can
can continue.
probably understand, like with certain translations, there will be the basically the heading that tries to direct us in a certain way. But the point that I'm trying to get at is based on the literal Arabic, which we should go to. Does it show that it's even Gabriel, or is this just something that is read or inferred upon from the translators? So it seems to me like the evidence you brought up as to why this is Gabriel is number one, the arms, and number two, the face. Am I correct on that? Or if you have something else?
Uh, no, you could throw away like the face part, just the arm's length.
Okay, just the arms. So you would say Allah has no arms, but Muhammad saw the arms, and so this would mean that it's the arm of Gabriel.
No, 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 no. I think you misunderstood a little. When it says arm's length, it's not talking about like his actual arm. It's just talking about like how far Muhammad and Gabriel were from each other, like arm's length.
So how does that prove that this is specifically Gabriel?
Well, when the Quran was first revealed, it's a pretty common story that like even little kids know that Gabriel came in the cave and
I
like
mean, like based
came
off of the
straight to Muhammad.
context, based off of the Quran itself. I know that there are stories that go around that even in the Hadith it tries to show that it's not Allah, but it's rather the angel. But I'm curious, like based off
Mhm.
of the Arabic, because we should go with the Quran. What does it actually say that, like, how do we know that it's not the angel Gabriel? Because once again, Muhammad is only the servant of Allah, according to what you
Mhm.
said. And if so, then how is it that Allah, or sorry, how is it that Muhammad is a servant of Gabriel in this case?
Mm, well, he's not a servant of Gabriel. Uh, all right, I'll repeat this again. It said Allah revealed to his servant, to Muhammad, what he revealed through Gabriel. So what it says
Hmm.
is Allah revealed to his servant through Gabriel, not necessarily Gabriel. Muhammad is Gabriel's servant, but Muhammad is a servant of Allah. He just revealed it through an angel. So it doesn't necessarily make Muhammad the slave of the angel.
So
It's kind of like
in the Arabic, it would rather say that it would rather say then revealed to his servant that he revealed. And in the context, the he who is revealing would be this character who stood poised, who was terrible in power, who drew near. It's not about Allah. So actually, this translation is not correct as well. When it says, then Allah revealed to his servant, it is not Allah, it's He. Then He revealed to His servant. Because the context, it's about this character. The He here is the one who's terrible in power, very strong, stood poised, etc. So it should be, if we're talking about Gabriel, then it should be Gabriel who revealed to his servant, meaning Gabriel revealed to Muhammad, his servant.
I don't really know. I don't understand Arabic, so like
Right.
this
Okay.
kind of not relevant to me. But yeah, I mean, I can see what you're saying.
I'll quote you.
I
Yeah.
don't.
I quoted
Yeah, I don't
automatically for
really.
you so you can see. Go ahead.
Or, I don't really know Arabic, so like it's like not like I don't really understand it. But I'll take a look at this. But I mean, we can move on for now.
Sure. Yeah, bro. I appreciate it. Yeah. And I bolded the point where I try to show that it's actually not what is it? It's not Allah who revealed it, but in the context, it's actually the Gabriel. If we understand this to be Gabriel, then it's Gabriel who revealed to his servant Muhammad. But yeah, we can move on. Let's see. Um, do you think that when it comes to say divorce and do you think that divorces are ever allowed? Can you ever divorce your wife?
Yeah, I mean, under some cases, yes.
Under what cases would you say?
Um, Probably like I mean, family disputes, not really. Probably like I mean, if you get cheated on and you can't really resolve it, maybe some other cases like having like abusive like spouses, then yeah.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. Now concerning the marriage age, when would you say is the marriage age?
Um, Marriage age. Well, the prophet said to follow cultural norms. So I'd say like around right now, like
Back
probably
then.
like I
Let's
don't
talk
know.
about back then. We can talk
Oh,
about back
back
then.
then,
Yeah, yeah.
well, back then cultural norms were pretty young. So back then, I'd say usually when they hit puberty, since they didn't
Okay.
really have all that scientific knowledge of like 18 or whatever. So they usually married like first signs of puberty. So I'd say that's when back then, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you would say, for example, that Muhammad was just, right? Muhammad was righteous and the Quran was righteous in its commandments as well?
Hmm.
Okay. Makes sense. Now, if so, then, so I'll give you, for example, this Saki Abu Khari right here. So I'm going to quote it right here for you. Saki Abu Khari. This is Aisha. Aisha said, I used to play with the dolls in the presence of the Prophet, etc. And in the parentheses, it puts, the playing with the dolls and similar images is forbidden, but it was allowed for Aisha at that time, as she was a little girl, not yet reached the age of puberty. So during this time, at least whatever time it was, you would agree, according to the Sahih Bukhari, that Aisha had not yet reached the age of puberty, right?
No.
You would disagree with it, or you would agree?
Uh, well, I would like. Can you like rephrase like the first question?
Yeah. Did Aisha reach puberty during this moment?
No,
No. Okay,
no.
perfect. I agree right there. So, um, now when it comes to the age of Aisha, how old do you think she was?
Well, I mean, some people say 9. Some people say older than 15. I'm like split half and half because like some people say like the hadith of her being 9. Some people say she accompanied the prophet at war, and it was a rule that people under the age of 15 could not be at war. So I'm like kind of split half and half.
Yeah. Okay. So here, let me quote to you some sources right here showing that this is from Muslim sources as well, right? So I would not just
Hmm.
simply quote a Christian source or anything. So go ahead. I just sent it
Hmm.
to you. This shows that actually Aisha's age, she was still only 6, and so because she was still playing with dolls, that was an indicator she had not reached puberty, and she was only 6 when she was accepted into Allah's messenger's house. She was still playing on swings with her playmates, and
It actually says she was admitted to his house at the age of 9.
9. Sorry, or sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
So he married her when she was 6,
Yeah.
right? So when she was 6, she was and sorry, let's see, et cetera, et cetera. Attended to his house, admitted to his house when she was 9. Further, so and then she said at and I was at that time on the swing with my friends and playmates, um, etc. So this girl was really young, right? So she was
Hmm.
taken into his house. This is from Sahih Muslim, Book 8. She was taken to his house as a bride when she was 9, and her dolls were with her. Now remember, we just read that the playing of dolls were forbidden except for those who were prepubescent, right?
Hmm.
So here, when she was 9, when Muhammad uh, admitted her to his house and consummated the marriage, that was when she was still prepubescent. So this is another one, right? Sunan Abu Dawud, Book 11, number 2116. It says, Aisha said, the apostle of Allah married me when I was 7 years old. So 6 or 7, right? The narrator,
Hmm.
Sulaiman, said, or 6 years. He had intercourse with me when I was 9 years old. So what
Hmm.
this means is, according to Sahih Muslim, when she was 9, she was still playing with her dolls, meaning she was a prepubescent girl. And in Sunan Abu Dawud, she was 9 when he had sex with her. So this would mean that Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl playing on swings and dolls with her playmates, and she was still a prepubescent. Do
So in
do you
Sahih
accept that?
Muslim,
Hmm.
well, in Sahih Muslim, yeah, so people could like play with dolls. I'm pretty sure, like you said, if they hadn't hit puberty.
Hmm.
It just says in Sahih Muslim that she when she was taken to his house as a bride, she was 9 and she had her dolls. It doesn't really say she was like playing with them. So I wouldn't really like infer that she was like not she hadn't hit the age of puberty yet, since all she did was have dolls. Usually when people grow up they still have toys, but they don't really play with it. um so yeah,
Why?
I
Yeah.
wouldn't really say that she was like under the age of puberty yet.
Hmm. So you would say that she reached puberty when she was 9,
Yeah.
according to what evidence?
Well, usually females hit puberty from the ages of 8 to 13 on modern studies.
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, of course, yeah. According to modern studies, they do hit puberty very early on. So why do you think that Sahih Muslim would mention that her dolls were with her if she was not playing with dolls?
I'll be completely honest. I have no idea.
Hmm. Do you
Usually
think
in a
like,
lot of hadiths, they like
mm,
add a lot of like details. I don't know why, but I don't know why the dolls are listed here.
yeah,
So
do you think that the mention of the dolls points or makes it more likely that she was still playing with them? Like otherwise, why would it
mm,
mention it?
I don't really know.
Not
I
like
don't
out
know
of
why it mentions
certainty.
dolls, but like um, probably a chance. I don't really like. It doesn't say she was playing with them. It said she had her dolls, probably to like just keep it. Probably if they had like children, the children could have dolls. Probably it could infer to something like that. But it doesn't say like she was playing with dolls, so I wouldn't really like infer that she was under the age of puberty. But the hadith books do add a lot of details that like I don't know why they add like that many details, but usually when it adds that much details, it's like kind of irrelevant. So
Mm. Yeah, so like for example, if we go back to Sahih Muslim book 8, right? It shows that
mhm,
when so she got married when she was 6 and was admitted to his house at the age of 9. She further said, "We
mhm.
went to Medina and I had a fever for a month and my hair came down to the earlobes, etc." She said, "I was at that time on a swing with my playmates." Would you say that she was playing on the swing with her playmates?
Yeah, she was just like swinging.
Yeah, she was playing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So at 9, she was still playing with the swings. So by that, could we infer by probability that she was also playing with her dolls when she was 9? Because she was playing with swings when she was 9 with her playmates. Could we infer that she was also playing with dolls when she was 9?
I mean, you could make the inference, but I wouldn't really.
Okay. Yeah. So that's quite something to consider, right? Because, like,
Mhm.
I mean, if he married a prepubescent, um, what problem do you think would arise in your thinking? Like, would you be okay with
Uh,
somebody marrying, say, your sister who is a prepubescent? I would not.
well, today's culture norms are different, but like right now, no.
I mean, even by their standard, right? Even by the standard during the time, that would not be okay to marry somebody who is a prepubescent, right?
Well, back then, they married like really young. I don't think they married anyone prepubescent or before the age of puberty. But if someone like let's say it was back then no one really married before the age of puberty. Usually the first sign a woman's ready for marriage is when they first hit puberty and they have the first period. That's when
Hmm.
they know that they're ready, because right now or back then they didn't have all the scientific research to know like the correct age and everything, so they
Hmm.
use those type of signs. Saying right now like
Okay.
someone were to marry like my sister prepubescent, it's like not that logical since today's norms are like very very different.
Right. And
But
yeah,
yeah,
I
I would
understand.
still not let someone.
Hmm. So, like, if you were living during that time, would you be okay with somebody marrying your sister who was only 6 then? Because, like, let's say she was 6 and she was a prepubescent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, would you be okay?
Prepubescent,
6 prepubescent. Would you allow
from like a
somebody to marry?
point from point of 1400 years ago.
Yeah.
Prepubescent, probably not, but like the first sign of puberty, probably.
Okay. Yeah. So, once again, according to Saki Abu Khari, that's number
Mm-hmm.
151. The playing with the dolls and similar images is forbidden, but it was allowed for Aisha at that time because she was a little girl, not yet reached the age of puberty. And this was talking about when she used to play with dolls. And we know that she was playing with dolls at a very young age. So, for example, at age 6, would you say she was still playing with dolls?
Age six. Yeah.
Okay, so that was when he married her, when she was 6, according to Sakya Muslim 3309.
Mm-hmm.
So earlier you said that you would not be okay with somebody marrying your 6-year-old prepubescent um, sister, right? And I would not be okay with that as well. And yet that's what
Mm-hmm.
Allah's messenger did. Married Aisha,
Well,
who was a prepubescent 6-year-old.
well, I mean, marriage isn't really that harmful. It's when you have intercourse. That's like the main thing.
Hmm.
He had intercourse with her after she hit puberty, so I don't really see a problem. The marriage thing, like before puberty, that I get could be a problem for like unknowledged people.
Right.
But really, marriage isn't really that like harmful. It's like when you have intercourse with like
Right.
prepubescent people, that's when it gets bad.
And the reason I bring this up, I understand what you're saying. The reason I bring this up is earlier you were mentioning to me that you would not be okay with somebody marrying your 6-year-old prepubescent girl or prepubescent sister, and I would not be okay with that. And yet, that's exactly what Muhammad did. He married a 6-year-old prepubescent Aisha.
Hmm.
Right? So, like, are you okay with Muhammad marrying a 6-year-old prepubescent Aisha? Like, even marriage, even without intercourse.
Well, marriage, I don't really know. Probably
You
like, I mean,
probably.
uh, I mean, Aisha had the choice to marry him, and she was fine with it. So,
Do you think 6-year-olds have like a great conscience to be able to choose to marry a 50-something-year-old man?
mm, I mean, not really.
Mm. So, so Aisha, who was 6 years old, without a great conscience to, make that decision to freely marry a 50-something-year-old Prophet Muhammad, like you'll be okay with that, even though earlier, like you were saying, you're not okay with somebody marrying your 6-year-old prepubescent sister.
I said I wouldn't really like think of it as an option. I obviously like wouldn't be that fine. 1400 years ago, uh, if my sister was 6, someone wanted to marry her, um, I would. I said probably not. Like no would probably be an option. Yes, I mean it's not really my choice, but if I had a choice, probably not. But uh, I mean Aisha was like, how do I say it? Like marriage, like when you get married, first of all, he got married to her. I get like what you're trying to say. He got married, but they didn't even live together. They never had intercourse until she hit puberty. So the term of marriage, like marriage is a harmless thing. So I get what you're trying to say, but like, let's say 1400 years ago, I were to marry like a 6-year-old girl. All right, we like don't live together. The problem is once like she doesn't hit puberty and we live together and have intercourse, that's like the main problem. But marriage, like they got married, they never lived together, they never had intercourse. They only did it after she hit puberty. So like, I don't really get like where the problem is.
hmm So you would say that what's the point of marriage? The like one of the points of marriage, is it to have sex?
To reproduce, I guess.
Yeah, to reproduce, and obviously that's done through sex, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, me too. I would say that. Now, if that's the case, then why do you think Muhammad would marry her so early at 6 years old, prepubescent?
Mm, I guess he was there's hadith somewhere. I don't remember hadith since it's not something I memorized. But there was someone who wanted Muhammad the Prophet to marry the daughters. He had two options. One was Aisha. There was this other woman. I don't know their name. He chose both. So I guess that's why they got married because he accepted. And the person, I'm pretty sure it was Abu Bakr's I think wife or something like that. He was given the option, and since Muhammad accepted, I guess that's why they got married so soon.
hmm Yeah, I mean, even then, still, once again, like with marriage, the point is to reproduce through the marriage, right? So that means when Muhammad said yes to marrying a 6-year-old prepubescent Aisha, he was basically saying yes to having sex to the 6-year-old Aisha, prepubescent.
Not until she hit puberty, I guess. Like
Okay.
he had other
So
wives
yeah,
too,
where
but
would you
like
say is that inference from that he's waiting until she hits puberty? Like, does Allah,
um
or sorry, does Muhammad himself mention it anywhere?
I don't think so. It doesn't really mention those types of hadiths, but you could infer it because he didn't want or Aisha didn't live with him right when they got married. So I guess they were waiting until she hit puberty. So I guess you could infer it based on that.
Mm, okay. So let's see. Um, Do you think that the Quran allows marriages for, or sorry, let me start with this. Do you think that prepubescent girls are immature girls for marriages?
Mm, probably.
Um, like,
Yeah, yeah, most likely, yeah.
okay, so you say yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would say yes as well. Immature girls are those who are not ready for marriage, so they're prepubescent. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so with Surah 65:4, so I'll send it in to you so we have the same translation right here. So that's from
All right.
Hilali Khan, and then I'll send you the other one right here, Surah 33:49. So we'll read it together, okay? So the first one, and those of your women as have passed the age of monthly courses, so period, right? Courses are periods.
Mm-hmm.
For them, the iddah, the waiting period after death or divorce before married with another man. That's my commentary. If you
Mm-hmm.
have doubts about their periods, is 3 months. And for those who have no courses, meaning they are still immature, because if you don't have periods yet, you have not reached puberty. Now watch
Mm-hmm.
this. It says their iddah is 3 months likewise, right? So that means one
Mm-hmm.
can get married to those who are immature. The Quran allows divorce, and then after the iddah allows marriage for immature girls, for prepubescent girls. And then so let me show another one, right? So with Surah 33:49, O ye who believe, when ye marry believing women and then divorce them before ye have touched them, no period of iddah have ye to count in respect of them. So give them a present and set them free in a handsome manner. So um, what this means, at least with Surah 65:4, right? It's referring to young pre-pubertal girls, meaning girls who have not reached sexual maturation, who got married and were divorced sometime after the consummation of their marriage. So this means that even prepubescent girls were able to marry. Like you would be okay with that?
No.
So how would you understand Surah 65 for them? Because it basically allows, like if we were to summarize what it said, it basically allowed for divorce, and sorry, it allows marriages of prepubescent girls and then a divorce of those prepubescent girls.
Again, it's kind of like a translation thing because each translation has like a different context. But you get like the translations from like the translations that like I guess suit your arguments the best, which I get it. A lot of people do that. But if you look at like the most common translations, it talks about divorced women or women who are pregnant. Because when you are pregnant, I'm pretty sure you don't have periods until after you give birth. So I'm pretty sure from the translations that you have, I'm pretty sure it changes the wordings a little. I don't really see like whenever like imams or scholars or people who debate, they never use translations like this. If you go on Quran.com, I'm pretty sure like the original translation that's there is like the most common one, and it talks about waiting periods for women who are divorced.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
three like when it says that they don't have the period, I'm pretty sure it talks about women who are pregnant.
So how would you get the inference that it's talking about women who are pregnant? And by the way, yes, the Quran.com is more common, but actually it has a lot of incorrect and non-literal translations from the Arabic into English. The more literal one, probably one of the most literal, is by done by Arbery. Arbery is very literal with his translation. So if we really want to be authentic to the Arabic Quran, we should go with what Arbery has to say in English. But something like Yusuf Ali, even though it's very common, Yusuf Ali, there are a lot of points where it's very non-literal, and they're just blatant inferences and assumptions.
Can you send the verse of Arbery?
Yeah, I can show you Arbery. So 65:4.
Alright.
Here we are. This Arbery 65:4. just sent it.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure you can read here. It says, and those who are with child, uh, I'm assuming that means who are pregnant, uh, also have a waiting period of 3 months before they can get divorced. So, um, yeah, I mean this one too, like it
Wait.
simply just like
hmm So yeah, so
it's
that I agree that it does talk about those who are pregnant, those who are with child. But if we took a look at the clause or the sentence right before that, it says, "And those who have not menstruated yet." Would you say that that means that those who are prepubescent, right? Because you only reach your menstruation period when when you hit puberty. But if you have not menstruated, you are a prepubescent, correct?
um well, I mean you could infer that like women don't like menstruate like continuously, like there's a period like I think of a few days where they don't menstruate. I guess you could assume that to be what it means. There's a lot of assumptions. I guess it kind of just depends on like the context you have, but I think it like when it says like the women who haven't menstruated yet, I think it just talks about the women who haven't like hit the cycle yet, like
Right.
not little kids but just women who are like in that area of like who haven't hit their period yet.
So wait, so as for women who have despair of further menstruating, if you are in doubt, their period shall be 3 months. So that means, hold on, let me read another translation. Meaning, okay, so let's take a look at it closely. So as for the woman who have despair of further menstruating, that means like say an old woman who no longer has menstruation, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so their period will be 3 months. And those who have not menstruated yet, as yet, you would say that means that these are women who are have received menstruation, right? They but there are a few days where they don't receive it
um Well,
because
the
yeah.
book I have gives like the context. It talks like if divorce happens after sexual intercourse, she might get pregnant, which delays the end of idda until her pregnancy. If divorce happens during a monthly cycle, it's kind of like disagreeing like between scholars like what it means, but I guess it's kind of like based on the context you have. This could mean a lot of things. Firstly, if they're pregnant, which is one. uh Secondly, if they haven't hit their periods yet, not necessarily talking about little girls, but like the state of like where you just hit your period and then you like are in the state of like
Wait,
not
then
having a period.
doesn't that mean that you did hit your period?
No, 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 no. So for women who like all right, so for divorcing, if you hit your period and then like after you're done with your period, you decide to divorce, you have to wait uh like a month or like however months it says here, like after you hit your period. So like if you hit your period and then like you're not in your period and you decide to divorce, you have to wait a certain time, and it says that in this ayah.
So how I'm reading it is that yes, the latter part where it says and those who are with child, their term is etc. It does mean that these are those who are pregnant. But then before that, it's not about those who are pregnant. Before that, I would understand those and those who have not menstruated yet as immature women, women who have not hit puberty because they have not even menstruated yet. But it doesn't really fit well with the interpretation that these women who have not menstruated yet are actually those who did get menstruation because that would be just simply be contradictory.
All right. So what I'm trying to explain this here is so for those women so the give me a second, let me read this.
hmm
All right. So the women who have menstruated, all right. So if you're like at a time where you're in your period, um, you have to wait 3 months before you can divorce. And same for the women who like all right. So All right, let me try to explain this in the best way I can. So
Mm.
if you like were to like go through your period right now, you would have to wait 3 months. But if you go through your period first and then get divorced, you'd also have to wait 3 months. Which I'm pretty sure is what it's trying to talk about. But again, it's kind of how you like infer it. So
Wait, but it doesn't talk about in Surah 64, 4 it doesn't talk about divorce though. Like how do you know that this when it talks about and those who have not menstruated yet, how do you know that it's talking about those who did menstruate? Because that just is contra. It's like me saying, "Oh, I did hit puberty, but then I did not hit puberty as yet." Like those two things are contradictory. Did I hit puberty or no?
well, I mean, the context of this is literally talking about divorce. You could just like Google search it. But what I'm trying to say is, so um, you're okay. So there's correct me if I'm wrong. There's a time after women hit their periods when they're not on that monthly cycle, correct?
So they hit their period, and then there's a time when they don't have their monthly cycle. What does that mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So like okay, so they're gonna have the period, right?
yeah,
And then you say there's a month after that wherein they don't have their what?
yeah. Okay, so women hit their period, right? And then right after the period, there is a time where they're not on that cycle, right?
Yeah, sir. So like the women are not in their periods like say every single month.
Yeah, so there's like a specific time, or like it kind of ranges for different women. Every like when they have their period, and they're like the cycle is done, there is a like a short amount of time before they hit their period again. I'm pretty sure when it talks about for those who have not menstruated yet, it's talking about the women who have just completed a cycle and then they decide to divorce. You could do a quick Google search. And first of all, Surah. I'm pretty sure the Surah talks about women who are like divorcing. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't see how it is talking about divorcing, at least from my research, but that's all right. I think I understand what you're trying to say. So I guess we just have different perspectives on how we interpret that. So we can move on. So do you think that when who was the who was given the Injil?
Jesus.
Jesus, right? So Jesus was
Yeah.
like born around like what 4 BC or something like that, depending on how people put it, right? Would you would
Well,
be
I
okay with
say
that?
like zero BC, something like that.
0 BC. So like
Around,
1 AD, 1 AD.
no, no, no. Oh, wait, no, no. 180 would be like after like quote he dies. So I'd say like somewhere like somewhere in like the BC.
Um, okay. Well, the 0 BC doesn't exist. Um, but you have
Okay,
1
yeah,
BC, you have 1 AD.
AD.
Yeah. Okay. So it's somewhere around that time. Now,
Yeah,
so if the Injil was given to Jesus, that was when the Injil came, right? It was given to Jesus when he was born, say.
alive.
Okay,
Yeah.
when he was alive. Okay. So what do you think about the fact that Allah reveals the gospel to Moses 1,400 years before Jesus' birth? So
Um.
Surah 7 157, right? And I'm using Yusuf Ali once again, very popular translation. He's a Muslim as well. Those who follow the apostle, the unlettered prophet, whom they find, so that word find, this is key here. This
Mhm,
is key. Do not be tricked by some of the translations that try to say will find. The actual Arabic
mhm,
says find, present tense, right? Whom they find mentioned in their own scriptures, in the law and the gospel, or and the Injil. So this is basically saying that this is basically a law revealing to Moses 1,400 years before Jesus was even alive, the gospel, the Injil. So how is it that Jesus was revealed the Injil, and yet the Injil was already present 1,400 years before? Does that mean that Jesus was in existence 1,400 years before his incarnation, and so that would be evidence of his being God?
Not really. So the word of Allah isn't a decree that I'm pretty sure exists like in the heavens or something. Like I think next to him, it's the word of Allah in a decree. Like I don't know if it's a book, but it's something like that. So when it says they find him, I'm pretty sure it's talking about like the decree of Allah that exists. And that is the decree like in the Quran. You know the verse where it says no one can change Allah's word.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that that ayah refers to Allah's decree. So I'm pretty sure this ayah also talks about how they will find him in the books, which is also like the decree of Allah before he sends down the book.
The thing is, this is being said to Moses. So this is not just a decree. This is something that is said present on earth. That Moses, like if Moses were to be curious, this is basically saying that Moses finds the prophet mentioned in the gospel already during the time of Moses, 1,400 years before Jesus' birth.
Um
Do, like, do you get what I'm trying to get at?
yeah.
Mm.
Um I'm just thinking. I mean, like I could argue that like that what's it called, the Torah and the Injil like teach the same things. So um I guess you could find that says the those who follow the apostle, the unlettered prophet, and they find mention in the own scripture and the law and the gospel. Um yeah, I'm pretty sure when it says the unlettered prophet, it does refer to Muhammad, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so when he gives the book the Torah to Moses. I'm pretty sure they can find the unlettered prophet in there. That's what Allah's saying.
Okay.
And also in the gospel, again, like the decree of Allah, they can find it in there too.
So, but then the gospel was revealed to Jesus, though,
Yeah,
right? So, how is it that Moses finds Muhammad in the gospel, which is present already there? Like, but then Jesus was not in existence yet.
it says that they can find the unlettered prophet in their own, and then you see the parentheses
Hmm.
scriptures,
Hmm.
so they can find him in the Torah.
Yeah, and it
It
says
is
in
the
the law
gospel
and the
too
gospel.
for the people of Jesus when that time comes, but for the people of Moses, they can find it in their scripture.
Right. So in the scriptures, and it's talking about what kind of scriptures? It's talking about, yes, the Torah, indeed, but it
Oh yeah,
talks
the Torah
about the
and the Injil.
gospel,
Yeah, the Injil.
right? So, but then the question is, if the gospel was revealed to Jesus around, say, 1 AD, then how is
Hmm.
it that the gospel is already present 1,400 years before 1 AD, before Jesus' birth?
Because Allah's words are eternal.
The thing is, this, yeah, sure, sure, it's eternal, of course, and yet it's supposed to be revealed to Jesus first, right? That's what we
Hmm.
would essentially be saying. The gospel was revealed to Jesus first.
Yeah.
So how is it already revealed to Moses 1,400 years before?
It doesn't say it's revealed to Moses. It says that they find the unlettered prophet in their scriptures and the gospel, but it doesn't say that the gospel was like given to Moses or anything.
If
It just says that they find it.
Yeah, if it's not revealed to Moses, then how can he find um, Muhammad in the Injil?
Why? Why would he need to find it in the Injil?
No,
It
I'm
says
saying
it's mentioned in
that
there.
Allah says that Moses could find it in the Injil. Like, why would Allah say that to Moses if Moses is not revealed the Injil?
It says that those who follow the apostle, the unlettered prophet, whom they find mentioned in their own scriptures.
Hmm.
Um, and then it says the scriptures. So it says like Moses can find Muhammad in his scriptures, but it doesn't say that he has to find it in the gospel. It just
It
says that they can find it in their scripture. It doesn't say that they have to find it in the gospel
and what are those scriptures?
or the Torah
And
and the Injil.
exactly, yeah. So that's basically what I'm trying to get at, right? So it's a both and. It's not just the Torah. It's right here based off of Surah 7 157. It shows that the Injil is already there. It's already present, and it is already something that Moses can access. Moses can access it because they find mention in their own scriptures, the prophet.
Yeah, when it talks about their own scriptures, it talks about the Torah. The
And
Injil is for the time of the people of Jesus where they can find it. But for the people of Moses, it talks about the Torah. When it in this ayah, I'm pretty sure refers to two different time places. One at the time of Moses, and then also one where they can find it at the time of Jesus when he gets the gospel. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't really see anything else wrong. Like
okay,
yeah, I don't really see anything.
yeah,
I guess I know where you're getting confused. Like, I saw your video on this. When I first saw it, I was kind of confused too. But like, I just like kind of looked at the ayats. I kind of like thought about it, and I guess I could come up like with an explanation. But again, I mean, it kind of looks. It depends on how you like view like the ayat. But
but do you see
again, you
like
have to kind of
where I'm
like
trying
use
to get
context.
at, right? Do you see what I'm
Yeah,
trying to get
I
at?
get your point. I get your point.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
I understand your point.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I understand your point as well. Like you're saying that it's the Torah of Moses. What I'm trying to get at is that it's both the Torah and the gospel, because that's what the text literally says, the Torah and the gospel, which would then mean
Yeah, I
that
get
the
it.
gospel is already present during that time, 1,400 years before. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Okay, so let's see. There's another one when we talk about the word of Allah. So you would say that the would you be okay with, say, another, like Allah's words being eternal just as Allah is eternal?
Um, yeah, his words are eternal, and they're an attribute of him.
Yeah. Okay. So would you say that Allah like praises himself? Like you're okay with that?
Yeah,
Okay. You're okay with Allah praising himself. How about praying to himself?
praying to himself. Um, I mean, can you send like the hadith or like the verse?
Yeah. Um, and do you think that it's okay that he prays to himself? If he does, if he does.
Um,
Does that make any
I don't
sense?
even
Because
know.
then, no, right? Yeah, I would say the same thing. I would not be okay with Allah praying to himself. So, okay, so as you were saying, Allah's word is eternal, and so is Allah. So that's perfect. So, and then the conclusion would be he prays himself. So here, from the very beginning, Surah 1, 1 through 7, Shir Ali, right? So
Hmm.
this is Allah's word. These are all Allah's words. And yet it is talking
Hmm.
to Allah, to the Lord, etc. So thy favors, thou. So Allah's word, which is eternal, just as Allah is, and Allah's word came from Allah, is praising Allah, is praying to Allah, because it's a prayer. Does that make sense? So that means Allah would be praying to himself, essentially, right here. What do you think about that?
Oh well, the first half, like I mean, the second half doesn't really like mean anything to me. But the first half, I get what you're trying to say, but when it's eternal, it doesn't mean he's praising himself for eternity. Like, let me give you an example. Let's say you learn how to speak in kindergarten, all right, and you learn the phrase, "I like myself a lot." All right, it doesn't really mean you're gonna continue saying "I like myself a lot" for the rest of your life every single second. Allah's word is eternal. That just means that it's an attribute of Him and exists. It doesn't really mean that He's repeating it over and over. It's just like eternal and it exists. Like it, humans, like when they speak, all right, they're not gonna repeat the same phrases over and over. It's an attribute of humans to have words, just like how it's the attribute of Allah to have His eternal word. So I don't like really see the problem.
Right. Do you see what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah, I get
Like,
it. Like,
okay.
yeah.
Um, so Allah's words. You would say, for example, the very beginning part, at least, right? In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, etc. That's a prayer, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So this is Allah's words that came from Allah to Allah. Do you see the cycle? So let me write it out.
Yeah.
This is Allah's word from Allah to Allah. So what this would mean is Allah's word right here, which is a prayer, is Allah's prayer to Himself.
Um, well, it's not really Allah praying to himself. It's Allah telling us what to say, to pray. For example, in the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, all praise due to Allah. For example, when you before you recite a surah or a dua, you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, which is this is what it means. It's because Allah is telling us what to say before we, for example, like recite a surah or like drink water or eat,
So these
or
things
like
were
let's say
already
slaughter
eternal,
animals.
right? These instructions for
Yeah,
us were eternal,
yeah,
but we were not in existence.
mm, yeah.
So why would
I
He
mean,
have these eternal words for us if these words and Himself were eternal and we were not even in existence? Wouldn't this be the prayer for Himself? Because then it's the word, the prayer that's eternal alongside Him only.
not really. The word is eternal, but he can have the words. He just waits until he creates us, then he tells us what to say. For example, like, I mean, if you're a teacher, all right, and you know like what to say, all right, like let's say as a kid you're learning, all right, and you learn all this stuff, and now you want to be a teacher when you grow up. You know all these things, but you don't teach it until you actually get students. Like you have to wait until you get the students. This
Hmm.
is what Allah is basically doing. He has the words. He just waits until he creates it. All right, since he's omnipresent, like I don't really like my brain cannot function all that,
Hmm.
but he basically just creates it, and then since he has the words, since it's an attribute of him, he just puts it in the Quran and tells us what to say. It's not really him just praising himself for eternity. It's not him like at the beginning of like time or it's like infinitely like praising himself. It's basically him having his eternal word and just waiting to create us or some
Hmm.
sort of being so then he can tell us like what to say or like the prayers.
Right, because the words are meant for us. Right, I see what you're
Yeah,
saying. Yeah, yeah, I
yeah.
understand what you're saying. Now, let me make it more clear that actually Allah prays to Himself. You would say all prayers are directed to Allah, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay. So here are some surahs, and I put the Arabic right there because there are some translations that try to escape it, that try to, um, not put the real Arabic translation into English. The word here is actually prayer. It's not blessing, it's not just praise, it's prayer. So, right here. So, Surah 33:43. This is literal from the Arabic, okay? He it is who sends prayers on you as do his angels. So his here is about Allah. And then we're going to continue. Allah and his angels pray for the prophet. So that I put the Arabic right there as well to see that it's actually pray, not bless, not praise, but it's pray. O ye that believe, pray for him, right? And salute him with
Yeah,
all
yeah, yeah.
respect. So that's Surah 33:43, Surah 33:56. So what this shows is if we go off of the literal Arabic translation into English, Allah sends prayers on Muhammad, sends prayers on another. That would mean that Allah is praying to himself. Would you be okay with that?
Um, I mean, I kind of have an explanation for that. So when we say the Prophet's name, we say Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we're sending prayers to him. So when in this verse 33:43, it says Allah sends prayers on you. It talks about the prayers we have made that Allah basically sends the prayers to the Prophet.
Hmm.
That's like the simplest explanation I can like kind of give you.
Right, right. Yeah.
I don't think it gets any more like deeper than that.
So, like, when Allah says it, He is saying the prayers on Muhammad, just as we would say the prayers on Muhammad, right?
Mm,
Am I understanding correctly? Or
well, okay, so forget about 3356 for now. I'll come to that in like a minute. 3343. When it says he it is who sends prayers on you, as Muslims, when we say Muhammad's name, we say Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is a prayer that we say. So Allah
It's to
sends the
Muhammad.
prayer. We say the prayer, so then Allah can send it to Muhammad to show
Hmm.
respect to the Prophet. That's basically what 3343 is saying. It's not really saying that Allah prays to Muhammad. It's just talking about how He sends prayers to Muhammad that we say,
Okay,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah,
like
yeah. So I see
pretty
what you're saying.
simple.
So you're saying like with 3343, it's not saying that Muhammad is the one, or sorry, it's not saying Allah is the one who prays to Muhammad, but is that Allah is sending prayers on Muhammad, and these prayers on Muhammad could be from us, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So go ahead and address 3356, if you could.
All right. Allah pray for the Prophet. Wait. What was the most accurate translation you said? Can
This
we
one,
follow that translation? Like that's the Arbery.
yeah, Arbery. We can turn to Arbery. Let's see, Surah
I mean, I like to follow
3356.
the most authentic translation since I like don't know that much Arabic.
Let's see. So with Arbery, he does say bless, actually. But we can, that's no problem. We can go to Google. So this is what Arbery says.
Um, Again, it's kind of like a translation thing, but
Hmm.
the Arbery
It
one
is.
pretty simple. The other one, I mean, Allah and His angels pray for the Prophet. Um,
So this is Google right here. So I don't like this automated translation, of course, right? So I think he gets at it literally in many ways, but with this one, it's not. I don't think it should be blessed. I don't think it's blessed actually from literal translation. So I'll show you what Google has to say. So we go to Google, right? From Arabic
mhm.
to English right here. So that's from Google. They pray to the prophet. That's what it literally means in Arabic.
Or
So, how would you deal with that, saying showing that Allah and His angels pray for or to the Prophet? And we see the Arabics right there, the literal.
Allah and His angels pray for the Prophet. Again, I guess you could use my other explanation for this. Since it doesn't say they pray to the Prophet, not really an act of worship. Pray for the Prophet could
Hmm.
kind of mean the same thing I said when we say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We
So,
send prayers and they send the prayers for him, not to him, for him, kind of like the same thing. But yeah, when we say
yeah.
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Allah, I'm pretty sure his angels, I think, say it too. I don't really know, but Allah basically sends the prayers for the Prophet. And
Hmm.
if you continue reading, you can see that it's basically
Actually, this
for
this is a
respect.
verb. If we see it's a verb, right? So Allah prays. We can put it as praise for the Prophet. This is a verb. It's not just sending prayers, right? So I understood what you were saying with Surah 33:43, right? Prayers.
Hmm.
But this
Yep.
one actually shows that it's Allah Himself who prays, and obviously the angels who praise. But it's Allah who prays for the prophet. So it's a verb.
Again, I think I don't really know how to like respond to this one.
Hmm. Yeah,
But again, I think it's kind of like a translation thing. But
sure.
3356, like with this translation, again, I don't know Arabic, so I can't really respond to it that well.
No, yeah, I
But I
appreciate
mean,
you.
the best explanation I have is the one for Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But I guess your explanation also kind of like refutes that point. But I'll think about that one too, and
Hmm.
inshallah, if I get some, I'll respond to it if I can find out.
Yeah, I mean, because you would not be okay with. So let me, like with the conclusion, right? So what's the corollary of this? Well, it would then be that Allah actually worships Himself, because Allah prays to Himself, and all prayers ultimately go to Allah. And if so, then this prayer that Allah prays for this part where Allah prays for the prophet, Allah is praying to Himself for the prophet. Does that make sense?
Mm.
That would be idolatry from
Yeah,
Allah.
yeah, I see what you're saying.
Hmm. So that's one point. I mean, that's something to really consider, and it's fair, right? I don't know Arabic as well, brother, but um, this is something that we can check out for ourselves. So I have the actual Arabic right over there, so we can see,
Hmm.
what the translation is. Now, concerning the point of 33:43, you said, let's go back to that real quick. You said basically it's
Yeah.
Allah who sends the prayers of us human beings on Muhammad, but it's not Allah who prays to Muhammad, right?
Yeah.
Okay, which is fair, which is fair. Now, then that would mean that we send our prayers to Muhammad, no?
No. We send our prayers to Allah, and Allah sends the prayers to Muhammad. It's basically kind of like it's not really a prayer. Like well, it is a prayer, but when it is a prayer, it's not like a prayer of worship. It's more of a prayer of respect. When you
Hmm.
I don't know a translation for sallallahu alaihi wasallam that well, but it is a phrase of respect, and like it's not a prayer of worship, like a prayer of worship, like praying to your God, like for like worship. It's a prayer of respect. So we say sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which goes to Allah, and He sends it to Muhammad
Hmm.
sallallahu alaihi wasallam for respect.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
okay. I think it's a fair point. So basically, you're saying like we don't pray to Muhammad, but rather we pray to Allah, and it's for Muhammad, like intercessory
yeah,
prayer, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of.
Okay, that's fair. Now let's check out what Saki Abu Bukhari has to say. This is a point where I think it shows that Muslims actually pray to Muhammad, right? So earlier you said
All right.
that Muslims do not pray to Muhammad, and I don't think anybody should. Uh, but let's see what this actually says. So once Allah's apostle looked back at us and said, Allah Himself is As-Salam, and if any one of you prays, then he should say that. I don't know how to say that, etc., etc., etc. That's all in Arabic, right? It shows, and then the translation is in the parentheses. All the compliments, prayers, and good things are due to Allah. Peace be on you, O Prophet, and Allah's mercy and blessings be on you. Now, the reason I put you in capitalization is that it shows that when we say this prayer, whenever we say this prayer in Arabic or in English, we are praying to you, meaning Muhammad. We're praying to Muhammad. Does that make sense? And that would then
So
mean that we would be praying to Muhammad because it's to you, quote unquote.
um, I guess it's also kind of like pretty simple to understand. When we say peace be on you, it goes to Allah. All right, the prayer goes to Allah, and He sends it to the Prophet because we say peace be to you. So when we say peace be to you, it doesn't go to the Prophet directly. All right, because we can't just say peace be on and then not finish it. Because the prayer is for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we say peace be on you, and it goes to
Hmm.
Allah, and Allah sends it to the Prophet. It's not necessarily us praying to the Prophet.
Wait, yeah, okay. I understand what you're saying. So, like, if it were to merely say you, then we can understand it as Allah. But actually, the context clarifies it's you who is prophet. So, watch this. It says, Peace be on you, comma, O prophet. So, it's like me saying, Peace be on you, comma, IDK. That's you, right? You are IDK.
Mhm,
If I say
mhm.
that, that means I'm saying peace to you. To you. Not I'm not saying this to Muhammad. Or sorry, I'm not saying this to Allah. And and so this would mean that this is when we say this right now, we say this prayer, we are saying peace to you, O Prophet, who is already dead right now. He is dead. And so we would essentially be praying to Muhammad. And we continue. And Allah's mercy, so this is speaking about Allah as if he is as not as if he were first person, right? So it's mentioned
Mhm.
Allah's mercy and blessings be on you. So we are praying to, or we or prayer or communicate. We are communicating or praying to Muhammad because it's talking about you directly.
So a good way to understand that when you say this prayer, it goes to Allah, and then He sends it to the Prophet, is because if you read like the English part of like the lower half, it says all the compliments, prayers, and good things are due to Allah.
Hmm.
Um, the prayers are sent to Allah, and
Right.
then Allah sends the prayers to the Prophet. Because when we say peace be on you, to the prophet, it's not necessarily us directly speaking to the prophet. It's
Mm-hmm.
us speaking to Allah to send prayers on the prophet. So he
Does,
Allah
mm-hmm.
after we like pray to Allah to send blessings on the prophet, he basically just sends the prayers and the blessings to the prophet.
So when it says peace be on you, O prophet, is that to Muhammad or is that to Allah?
We are praying to Allah to send peace and blessings to the prophet.
Where does it say that we are praying to Allah? I know what the beginning clause says, all the compliments, prayers, etc. are due to Allah. But why is it that it can't be that we're praying both to Allah and we're praying to you, O prophet?
Um because wait, repeat that again?
Yeah. Why can't it be both, basically? Why can't we pray both to Allah and Muhammad? Because on
Uh
the context, right? So prayers go to Allah, obviously, due to Allah, and yet it continues, peace be on you, O Prophet. So now this is about Muhammad. So we're praying peace to you, O Prophet, a man who is dead right now.
yeah, yeah, again, when it says peace be on you, we're not all right, so when we make dua, all right, or when we're praying salah, um when we say this, all right, we're not talking to the prophet. We're pretty much talking to Allah, all right? We're making a dua to Allah, all right, to make blessings on the prophet. For example, let's say I want to pray for you, all right? And I say, Ya Allah, please make this guy very smart. I'm not directly praying to you. I am praying to Allah
Right.
so that
So
Allah
so then
can
you would not
make
use the
that
word you,
specific thing
right?
happen.
So in that case, I understand what you're saying. In that case, you're praying to Allah, but then would you use the word you in reference to me?
Um
No, right?
Probably not.
Exactly. That's basically what I'm trying to get at, right? So if you're praying to Allah to bless me, Ken, then you would say, Allah, please bless Ken with smartness or whatever. But then you would not say, Allah, please bless you, Ken. That would then mean that you're praying to me or you're trying to bless me or whatever, right? Directly to me, to you, quote unquote. Does that make sense? I'm glad you brought up that example actually because it reveals more. So yes, even though you're praying to Allah, you would not use the word you for in reference to me. But if you do use the word you, then you are referencing me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So would you say like
Um,
this would then be the case where it's um it's a case where Muslims do pray to Muhammad and thus would worship
mm,
Muhammad because prayers ultimately
I'd
they
still say no because like the wording is obviously like very different than how you would obviously like do it. But the first part says prayers and every good thing goes to Allah. So if you say that if it says that all prayers go to Allah and then you say you pray to Muhammad, it's very contradictory. So you have to use the context and you know that all prayers go to Allah. When it says peace be on you, all right, this is another way of explaining it. Peace be on you, O Prophet. You say to Allah, and Allah sends it to the Prophet. So the Prophet knows that there are peace and blessings sent upon him.
yeah. So once again, I understand what the context is. Let's try it with the example. I think it will help us to help us both to understand. So with the example you brought up earlier, so let's say you're praying, you're saying this to Allah. All the compliments, prayers, and good things are due to Allah. And then suddenly you say, "Peace be on you, Ken, and Allah's mercy and blessings be on you, Ken." Me, right? Ken is me.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make any sense. That would then mean that you're trying to send peace on me. That means you're communicating with me or you're praying to me, right? Do you get what I'm trying to get at? Even if you are
Mm.
starting off by saying all the compliments, etc., to Allah.
I mean, it's not really. When it says peace be on you, O Prophet, for example, if I say peace be on you, O Ken, in a prayer, I say to Allah, so Allah can then send the prayers to you. It's
Hmm.
just basically like the wording. Um, it says you, O Ken, because like some old Arabic, that's how they like word it. Uh, Probably right now, like you wouldn't add the word you, but that's just basically how it's worded. So peace, like if I were to pray for like you, I would say all things are due to Allah, peace be on you, Ken. And I basically pray to Allah, and that prayers basically get sent to you. That's kind of how it works.
So, okay, let me see if I understand it correctly. You would say that you send peace and blessings on me through Allah.
Yep.
Okay. So then that would be contradictory to the statement that all prayers are ultimately to Allah, because now it's through Allah to send blessings and prayers to me. Does that make sense? Right? So one part says ultimately Allah is the end. Allah is that end. But then now it's me who is the end of receiving the peace and the blessings. And Allah is just is something through which you use for the prayer to be sent for me. Does that make sense?
Well, I see what you're saying, but like you pray to Allah and it gets sent to you. Allah is not really like kind of like a messenger bird for the prayer. Allah is kind of like he gets the prayers, but he also just sends it to you. Like he's not necessarily like giving you the prayer. Um
So who is the one who's
I'm trying
saying
to think
you?
of an example. What?
Who is the one who's saying you? Like it would be you who's saying you, right? If you were to
I
say the
think
prayer, right? So
yeah.
so if you were to say you would be
Mm,
directly communicating to me or directly praying to me, depending on however you want to put it, right?
mm,
That's why you use the word you.
Again, not really how it works, but it's not really how it works. Again, uh basically you pray to Allah and you say, "Peace be on you, O Prophet, and Allah's mercy and blessings be on you," and then probably, "O Prophet." Allah gets those prayers and sends it to the Prophet. So you have to like you have to state like who you're sending or who you're praying for. If you just say peace be on you, all right, or peace be on Prophet, it doesn't make sense. Peace be on you, O Prophet, all right, or peace be on you, Ken. You have to state who you're praying to.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you just make a prayer. You don't state who it is. I don't think they're gonna
Right,
get the prayer.
right. So who is it that you're praying to?
Um, well, we're praying to Allah and we're sending blessings on the Prophet.
Wait, but you said earlier that we need to state who we're praying to, right? And in this case, it's stating that the prayer is to, O Prophet, to the Prophet.
Hold up, give me a second. Yeah, again, it's a prayer for respect, not for worship.
Okay, so I'll even temporarily grant that. So you would say then the prayer is to Muhammad,
Um,
prayer of respect to
um,
Muhammad.
well, kinda again, it goes to Allah, and then Allah sends it to the Prophet. You have to list who you're praying. Not to. Sorry, let me rephrase that.
So
You
here,
have to list who you're praying for.
yeah. So I'll show you through. Let's see, like a sort of it's like arrows. Okay, so it's to Allah, right? So all prayers to Allah, and then okay, so okay, so I just showed you right there. So Muslim prays. The Muslim prays or communicates. He ultimately goes to Allah, right? Right, because it's due to Allah. That's what we read. But then it's on you, or it's to you, meaning it's to. Here, let me edit it real quick. To Muhammad, and so that would then mean that Allah Allah is the way through which you pray to or on you, Muhammad. It's like you're
So when
communicating
it's
with Muhammad one on one. That's why you use the word you. Otherwise, you would not use the word you, right?
when it says all prayers are due to Allah, I'm pretty sure it talks about prayers of worship, because prayers
Okay.
of blessings, you could literally like say to anyone, it won't end up on Allah, because
Hmm.
Allah still gets the prayers. He just sends it to the person. Prayers of worship, that is where Allah gets it. Because if you want to worship Allah, Allah is not gonna send that to anyone. But
Hmm.
Allah says For example, this that anytime you say Muhammad's name, you have to say Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you send those prayers and blessings and prayers out of respect
Hmm.
to the Prophet from Allah. But I'm pretty sure when it talks about the prayers that Allah gets, like that only stay with Allah, it's prayers of worship.
Okay.
We can see in the Quran where it says
Yeah.
Allah is the only one worthy of worship.
Hmm. So would you say then that we can send prayers of respect and blessings and peace to Muhammad?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Would you say that it's okay for us to send prayers of respect, blessings, and peace to Muhammad?
Oh yeah,
Okay. So that's not prayer of worship, but is prayers of blessings and respect to Muhammad right now.
yeah, yeah, to Muhammad,
So
not like
how
directly, but
mhm,
like to Muhammad from Allah.
from Allah, yeah. So
Yep.
where did you get the distinction that this kind of prayer in Arabic is only the respect or the blessing kind, but is not the worship kind? How do you know that?
Um. Well. Um. Well, I mean, I guess I just kind of got it from common sense, but like, I don't really get like that from anywhere. Cause like, if you pray for someone, like, it obviously goes to them. But here it says all things are due to Allah for prayers. Prayers, like, you can distinct the difference between prayers of worship and prayers of respect. Prayers of worship, obviously, like, if you were to pray to like Jesus, it's not gonna go to like some random guy. It'll stay with like your God, right? If we were to pray out of worship, pray of worship, it would stay with Allah. But if we were to like pray out of respect and blessings, Allah would take those prayers and send it to someone. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure you could kind of like distinct that between like common sense, but
I understand your
I don't really
distinction.
get or
Yeah,
from anything.
I understand your distinction. My question was based off of the text, even the context. How do we know that this prayer is only the prayer of respect and not worship? Because if we, I mean, I would actually even say that based off the context, it says all the compliments, prayers. So this means all prayers are due to Allah. And if so, then that means including this prayer of peace be upon you, O Prophet, etc. That is a kind of prayer that is due to Allah as well.
Yeah, it's due to Allah. Like Allah gets it.
Hmm.
It doesn't say anywhere that Allah is the last one to get it. It just says all prayers are due to Allah, meaning all prayers like go to Allah.
Hmm.
Allah gets the prayers, but He sends it. And this isn't a prayer of worship, because I mean it says peace be on you, and then Allah's mercies and blessings be on you. So it's not really any like worship type of thing.
So
And yeah,
this
when it
prayer,
says
go ahead.
continue.
So yeah, this prayer is just a prayer, not worship, but is a prayer of respect to Muhammad. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you can pray. Is that allowed in Islam
Is what allowed?
to have a prayer of respect to another person? So I can. So if I were a Muslim, I can have a prayer of respect to you, even if you're dead.
Um, uh, well, I think like, I mean, I don't really know how you would respect him, but like, I guess you could just ask for like the person to be forgiven of their sins. That's like a prayer of like respect. You could
Hmm.
ask for the person like who's dead to be blessed. That's also like a prayer of respect.
Right. So if it talks about you, quote unquote, you, that would mean that the you person is alive, right?
They don't necessarily have to be alive.
So why would one use you if the person is not alive? So like if like for
Again,
example, I'll give you an example, right? So let's say I pray to my dead grandma,
yeah.
Allah's mercy to you, grandma, oh grandma. Okay, if I say that, that would imply that my grandma is alive.
Again, I don't know why this is worded that way, but again, if you add the word you, it doesn't really make the person alive. I don't know how you're getting that.
Do you
If you
think
could
that
explain
implies it?
that.
Maybe it's an assumption that I have, but I'm wondering if you think it implies that the person is alive, as I showed with the grandma example.
I mean, I don't think like having the word you necessarily makes them alive. Um, again, like you add the word you, like let's say I want to pray to my like dead grandpa. All right, I
Hmm.
say Allah, please forgive you, or like add the word you and then my dead grandpa. they don't necessarily have to be alive.